Hello, grade 8. This is your first history lesson in term 1. In these lessons, we will focus on the Industrial Revolution and the changes during that time in South Africa. For the first 2 lessons, we will focus on the Industrial Revolution. My name is Margaret Botman, and this is your Thuma Mina Teaching. Simply put, the Industrial Revolution was a time of major changes in society. Let's take the title for a second. Industrial and Revolution. What do you think when you hear industrial? Large factories, mass production? Right. And the word revolution? Revolution refers to a big change. So what changes are we talking about? The Industrial Revolution was a time where a major shift happened. From farming to factories, from small-scale production to mass production, from handcrafted goods to machine-made goods, from rural living to urban living, from farm-based economy to industrialized economy, from cottage industries to factory production, from manual labor to mechanized labor, from local markets to global markets. Quite a mouthful, right? Don't worry about it. We'll go through it bit by bit. As for now, let us go through the where, when, and how. The Industrial Revolution started in Britain, which is located in Europe. Before the Industrial Revolution, Britain was mostly a rural area with villages and towns. People lived in simple homes, worked on farms, and made pretty much everything by hands. Some of those include nails, lace, stockings, shoes, and textiles. There were no big factories or machines. Life was quieter and people were living much simpler. Imagine making nails by hand. Goodness, how many nails do you think you produce in a day to make something like this? You see, this was life before machines. Everything was much simpler. Hardworking and working with your hands. Now think of farming before the Industrial Revolution, sustaining a growing economy with your own hands. Before the Industrial Revolution, the entire economy depended on agriculture. That's pretty much what it was like for many centuries before that. So let me quickly explain how farming worked in Britain before the Industrial Revolution. Farming in Britain was organized through the open field system. In this system, large fields were shared by everyone in a village and divided into strips. Each family got some strips to farm, but the land was managed together under the local law's rules. People who worked the land, called serfs, didn't just farm for themselves. They also had to spend time working on the lord's land as part of their duties. In addition to their labor, serfs often had to pay their lord with a portion of the crops they grew. This system of paying with time and produce was a common way of life before factories and machines started changing the way people worked. Farming changed drastically during the Industrial Revolution as more advancements came. You might want to get ready with that pause button, as the definitions will appear in case you might want to write them down. Let's go through some of the major advancements. Some major advancements in agriculture included the invention of the seed drill by Jethro Tull and Lord Townshend, who implemented crop rotation to improve soil quality, or systematic selected breeding by Robert Bakewell. And lastly, the enclosure movement in the 1700s transformed British agriculture by converting common lands into private plots through parliamentary acts, enabling more intensive farming and increased production. So all these advancements led to surplus crops, feeding a growing workforce crucial for the Industrial Revolution. But that was agriculture. Now let's look at another important part of the British economy before the Industrial Revolution, and that is the cottage industries. Cottage industries were small, home-based businesses where families made products like textiles and crafts using simple tools. Before the Industrial Revolution, many people in Britain worked this way, making goods at home and selling them locally. However, as factories began to rise during the Industrial Revolution, these cottage industries couldn't compete with the mass production that factories offered. This shift led to many people moving to cities for factory jobs, changing the British economy from small-scale, home-based work to large-scale industrial production. Now that we know what Britain was like before the Industrial Revolution, you're probably wondering, why Britain specifically? Well, they had an abundance of important resources like coal and iron, which were essential. Additionally, they were wealthy due to domestic trade, colonial ventures, technological innovations, and the triangular trade route. That is important to note. Now, let's talk about that. The triangular trade route linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas, and was very important during the Industrial Revolution. The trade route allowed Europe to exchange goods for slaves in Africa, who were sent to work in the Americas on large farms producing sugar and cotton. These products were then shipped back to Europe. The money made from this trade helped pay for the Industrial Revolution in Europe, especially Britain. Want to write the definition down? Here, hit the pause button. Perhaps this is the perfect time for a classroom discussion. Once again, be ready to hit that pause button. I hope the classroom discussion went well. Now let's move over to merchants during the Industrial Revolution. Merchants would give material like wool to families who then spun it into yarn and wove it into cloth. Famous inventors like John Kay created the flying shuttle, which made weaving faster, and James Hargreaves invented the spinning jenny to spin more yarn at once. Interesting fact, the spinning jenny was one of the inventions that signified at the start of the Industrial Revolution. Now, this is the crucial part that you need to understand. What is the cause and effect here? With more technological advancements like machines, less hand labor was needed. So, for example, let's take the seed drill by Jethro Tull in the 1700s. Let's say it did the work of 7 laborers in a field. So now, the farmer only needs 1 person instead of 7. Where will the other 6 go? To the city. And that is what happened. Another great example is the mechanical loom. It did the work of between 10 to 40 hand loom weavers. Crazy. The more advancements, the less hand labor was needed, and the more people were forced to move to the cities. Wait, does this still happen today? Great opportunity for that classroom discussion. Ready on that pause button. I hope you're beginning to grasp the essence of the Industrial Revolution. It's about big changes on how people think, do business, use technology, and innovation. Think of it like this. Within the Industrial Revolution, every business sector had its own mini revolution. For example, there was a revolution of textiles, transportation, agriculture, and mining, all happening at the same time. What unites these sectors is their shared experience of significant advancements, resulting in increased productivity and output. So let's wrap it up. What are the things I want you to know about this lesson? First off, the Industrial Revolution began in Britain and had a global impact. Before the Industrial Revolution, Britain relied on agriculture and cottage industries. Farming was manual and focused on small-scale production. Cottage industries were home-based and produced goods locally. Britain's industrialization was fueled by resources, technological innovations, and trade routes like the triangular trade. The triangular trade route connected Europe, Africa, and the Americas, facilitating the exchange of goods and slaves. The more technological advancements that were made, the less hand labor was needed, which led to people moving from rural areas to cities. Industrialization led to the rise of factories and urbanization, transforming societies and the economy. Thanks for joining me for our first history lesson. In our upcoming lesson, we will look at the early changes of the Industrial Revolution. We will go in depth on the social changes during the Industrial Revolution and labor resistance. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson. Look in the description below and find our slides and self-marking assessments. See you next time.